Donald Trump's odds of winning the 2024 election have surged yet again, reaching a staggering 58 today. That's a massive shift in his favor, especially considering that just 3 weeks ago, Kamala Harris was actually leading the race. Now, with Trump holding a commanding edge, we're going to take a closer look at what's driving this dramatic rise and how Harris's campaign seems to be crumbling under pressure. It's remarkable to see such a swift change in the dynamics of this election, especially with Harris being the favorite not too long ago, but the numbers don't lie, and Trump's momentum right now is undeniable. What's fascinating about the current state of the election is how much movement we're seeing in the most competitive states, the ones that will ultimately decide who wins the presidency. We're going to focus on these 11 key battleground states, which are absolutely critical to the outcome. Now, we're not going to waste time analyzing the solid or likely states because, frankly, Trump's chances in Democratic strongholds like New Hampshire and Maine are slim to none, just as Harris has no realistic shot at winning traditionally Republican-leaning states like Iowa and Ohio. Instead, we're focusing on these battlegrounds because they represent the real fight for the White House. These states are where the action is, and they've seen an enormous amount of volatility in recent weeks. Take Michigan, for instance. This is a state that just 3 weeks ago had Trump's chances sitting at a mere 33. Now, he surged to a 54 chance of winning the state, a dramatic swing that's emblematic of the broader trends we're seeing across the map. It's worth digging into exactly why Trump is gaining so much ground in these critical states. So let's take it step by step. First, let's look at Nevada, a state that couldn't be more evenly split. Right now, both Trump and Harris are sitting at a 50 chance of winning, making Nevada one of the purest toss-up states in the entire race. Up until recently, Harris had been leading in Nevada for most of the past 2 months, but Trump caught up just a few days ago, and now the state is anyone's game. What's really interesting here is that Trump has actually pulled ahead in the polling average, leading by 0.5, which might seem small, but it's a significant lead in a state this competitive. In fact, the most recent Wall Street Journal poll has Trump up by a whopping 6 points over Harris, and that's no small feat, especially considering the Wall Street Journal tends to lean left. The shift in Nevada is big because no Republican has won the state since 2004. If Trump manages to flip it, he would be the first GOP candidate to do so in 2 decades. Given the current trends in both polling and betting markets, Nevada looks like it's going to tilt slightly in Trump's favor, making it a critical state to watch. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Moving on to Arizona, Trump is in a much stronger position here. He currently holds a 68 chance of winning, which is impressive considering he didn't even win Arizona in 2020. In fact, Biden flipped Arizona by a razor-thin margin of 0.30 that year, making Trump's current lead all the more significant. What's remarkable about Trump's position in Arizona right now is that his odds are just as strong as they were in mid-July before Biden exited the race. Democrats replaced Biden with Harris, but it doesn't seem to be helping them much at all. In fact, Harris is performing even worse than Biden did before he dropped out. This is a major failure for the Harris campaign. In terms of polling, Trump leads by 1.1 on average in Arizona, and the most recent New York Times poll shows him up by 5 points. Trump has always done well in Arizona's polls, only briefly falling behind during the Democratic convention when Harris experienced a temporary bump. But the numbers are now pointing to a Trump victory here. And according to betting markets, Arizona is leaning Republican. And next we have Texas, where Trump is all but guaranteed to win. His chances of carrying the state stand at a staggering 91, making it one of the safer bets in this election. While there is a competitive Senate race going on in Texas with Ted Cruz up for re-election, Trump's position on the presidential level is solid. Ted Cruz, who isn't exactly beloved even in his home state, may struggle a bit, but Trump doesn't have to worry. 4 years ago, the polls had Trump winning Texas by just 1, but he ended up outperforming those expectations, winning by nearly 6 times that margin. Currently, Trump leads by nearly 6 points, and by the time all is said and done, he could easily win Texas by 10 points or more. Harris has tried to make Texas competitive, but it's simply not happening. Trump's lead is too substantial, and Texas is a lock for him. Now, let's turn our attention to the Midwest, where things get even more interesting. Harris absolutely must win Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania if she has any chance of winning the election. These states are non-negotiable for her. Like losing even one of them would put her in a very precarious position. And when we look at how things are shaping up, it's clear that she's in serious trouble. In Minnesota, Harris made a critical mistake by choosing Tim Walz as her running mate. Yes, Walz will help her win Minnesota, but that's not really saying much. No Democrat has lost Minnesota since 1972. So it's not like this is a state that was ever really in play for Republicans. But choosing Walz doesn't help Harris in other key battleground states like Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania, where she desperately needed a boost. Here she had chosen someone like Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. That might have helped her secure the Keystone State, which is by far the most important state on the map for her. As it stands, Harris has a 91 chance of winning Minnesota, but that's not going to be enough to carry her through the rest of the Midwest. Moving to Wisconsin, the story gets even worse for Harris. At one point, she had a 16 chance of winning the state, but her odds have since fallen to just 47, and Trump took the lead for the first time in months. Throughout August and September, Harris was the clear favorite in Wisconsin, but with less than a month to go before the election, Trump is surging at the perfect moment. While Harris technically still leads in the polling average by a razor-thin margin, polling in Wisconsin has a notorious track record of overestimating Democratic support. In 2016, polls had Hillary Clinton winning Wisconsin by 6 points. She lost it entirely. In 2020, Biden was supposed to win by 6.3, but he only squeaked out a 0.6 victory. So even though Harris might have a slight lead in the polls, nobody really believes she's going to hold on to Wisconsin. The betting markets have already flipped in Trump's favor, and on our map, Wisconsin is now tilting red. So Michigan, meanwhile, presents an even more dramatic shift. Just look at the numbers. Harris once had a 70 chance of winning Michigan, and now she's down to just 46. Trump recently took the lead here for the first time in 2 months, and he's now the clear favorite in what has historically been one of the most liberal swing states. Michigan voted for Biden by nearly 3 points in 2020, making it the most left-leaning of all the battlegrounds. But today, Trump leads by 1 in the polling average, which is a significant development. Just like in Wisconsin, polling in Michigan has consistently underestimated Trump's support. Back in 2016, Clinton was supposed to win the state by 11.4, yet she lost it. And while Biden did manage to win Michigan in 2020, he still underperformed expectations. Now, with Trump leading both in the polls and in betting markets, Michigan is tilting red on our map. And if Trump secures the state, it could be game over for Harris. That brings us to Pennsylvania, the most crucial state in this entire election. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, the path to victory becomes almost insurmountable for Harris. The betting markets currently give Trump a 56 chance of winning the state, and he's been leading in the polls for weeks. Trump has a narrow lead of 0.3, but what's more important is the trend. He's been consistently ahead in nearly every poll conducted over the last 3 weeks. Pennsylvania was always going to be a battleground, even when Biden was still in the race, but with Trump now leading, it's looking more and more likely that he's going to pull off a win here. Pennsylvania is currently leaning red, and if Trump locks it down, Harris's chances dwindle significantly. As we head down to the Southeast, we start with Virginia, where Harris is the favorite, but not by as wide a margin as you might expect. No Republican has won Virginia since George W. Bush, and while Harris is likely to win here, the state is definitely trending to the right. Harris currently has a 91 chance of winning, but the race is closer than it was in 2020 when Biden won by double digits. Right now, Harris leads by just under 7 points, and when all is said and done, Virginia will likely be a lean blue state. Next, we have North Carolina, where Trump is the clear favorite. The betting market's given a 62 chance of winning, and he leads by 1.4 in the polling average. What's notable here is that Trump is ahead in every single poll. North Carolina was the only swing state Trump won in both 2016 and 2020, and it's looking like he's on track to win it again. North Carolina is currently tilting red, and Harris will need a major miracle to flip the state. Then there's Georgia, where Trump has a 64 chance of winning. This is one of the 2 states that Biden flipped in 2020, but Trump is poised to take it back. Georgia's always been a battleground, but Trump has been steadily rising in the polls, and he now leads by 0.7. It's clear that Georgia's leaning red once again, and it's looking like Trump is going to win it. Lastly, let's talk about Florida, which is another state where Harris's chances are virtually non-existent. The markets give Trump a 9 chance of winning here, and the polling tells the same story. Trump leads by 6.1 on average, and he's likely to win by an even bigger margin. Florida has been trending Republican for years, and despite Democratic hopes, the state is clearly staying red. Florida is firmly in Trump's column. When we take a step back and look at the entire map, it's clear that Trump is on track to win the majority of the key battleground states. Based on the current numbers, he's looking at winning 332 electoral votes to Harris's 226, putting him in a very strong position to win the 2024 election. His momentum is growing by the day, and barring any major surprises, it looks like Donald Trump is poised for a significant victory come election day. So that's where things stand now. Trump is in control of the race, and Harris is rapidly losing ground. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure to comment, and subscribe for more updates as we get closer to November.